What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we've got another live fantasy football mock draft for you back on ESPN with a 12-team full PPR mock where we will be selecting 4th overall. Should be really interesting. And while we wait for this thing to kick off, a quick reminder, if you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. Let us hear in the comment section do you agree, disagree with these picks, along with any other questions you guys might have. We will do our best to answer them all. But with that being said, this draft is officially underway, and I'm curious to see how this will play out. We did recently an ESPN mock draft, and the first thing that I noticed there, because it was one of our first ones, was that especially after the top 3, top 5 running backs, there's a lot of running back depth in the later rounds. And honestly, right now, after McCaffrey, Breece Hall, and Bijan Robinson just went 1, 2, 3 in that order, I'm going to go with a wide receiver here. I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb, the highest ranked wide receiver on ESPN, on fantasypros, I presume on several different other draft platforms as well. We still need to do a Yahoo mock draft as well, but no worries. That is coming out shortly. We'll see depending on the release of some of these videos that we have coming up. But look, the point being right now, after the top 3 running backs went, I did not want to immediately go with a Saquon Barkley or a Jonathan Taylor. I thought that there was a little bit better value in going CeeDee Lamb and then seeing what's available to us in the second round as far as running backs are concerned. But after CeeDee Lamb, you see Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't mind that pick. I think that the tier 1 group of wide receivers is larger than some might anticipate. I do think Amon-Ra can be in that category. Then Tyreek, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown, and man, Kyren Williams is getting a lot of love in these ESPN leagues. I've noticed the last mock that we did, he was drafted ahead of Saquon Barkley. That is the case again here. In fact, he's drafted ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs, ahead of Jonathan Taylor. So interesting. And, you know, I would probably be equally as high on him as well if, you know, Blake Corum hadn't been drafted by the Rams, a top 3 rookie running back with higher, you know, draft capital, if you will. But look, either way, I still think that he can be a top 12 running back. But let's move on here with the last couple of picks in the first round, and I will show it by pick history. After Kyren Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, Garrett Wilson. Then you see Saquon Barkley, Puka Nacua. I think great value on Saquon, on Puka, on Jonathan Taylor. Pacheco with the 4th pick in the second round. I see that ESPN is higher on him than I am personally, than I believe Fantasy Pros as well. Alvin Kamara higher on the ESPN rankings, but I mean, I don't hate that pick. Chris Olave, and then Rachaad White just got drafted with the 7th pick in the second round. As a reminder, if I remember correctly, I think we were able to get Rachaad White in the 4th round in the last mock draft that we did. And man, I just got sniped big time on Travis Etienne. I was really hoping that we can nab him at the end of the second round. So now I'm in a situation where I'm not going to lie to you guys. I don't like what I'm looking at. I've got Derrick Henry, I've got Joe Mixon, I've got James Cook. Out of these guys, I probably lean Derrick Henry or Joe Mixon. I'm going to go with Derrick Henry. I want a running back. And as far as the running backs that are left are concerned, you know, I don't love any of these guys. I think Josh Jacobs in the 3rd round is who I'm going to be targeting. Afterwards, you know, looking at some of these wide receivers that are also good values. Notice Devontae Adams still not drafted. Marvin Harrison got drafted at the end of the second round pretty much. So again, another wide receiver where there are differentiating rankings depending on the platform. We'll see where Devontae Adams gets drafted. People are avoiding him like the plague, it looks like. But man, yeah, I would have really loved Travis Etienne on the squad. CeeDee Lamb and Etienne in a full PPR league. Looks real good. I went with Derrick Henry trying to chase the touchdown production, right? We'll see if that pays off or it doesn't. I think that this is going to be kind of that make or break year for Derrick Henry. Like, I could see him falling off a cliff. He does have to contend with, obviously, Lamar Jackson, but he is one of the more stable running backs that they have had. So, on a better team overall, better offensive line. So, hoping that we can see some Derrick Henry magic. And I mentioned it before, if he's there, I will probably lean Josh Jacobs here. So, let's see. I'm not going to lie, Drake London is also very, very tempting. But I think there might be an outside chance. Oh my gosh. All right, well, Josh Jacobs just got drafted right before we got to make a selection. So, yet again, we get absolutely sniped. I'm looking at these other running backs, James Cook, Kenneth Walker, A-Chain. I mean, I would rather go wide receiver. I'm going to go Drake London here. He's been a guy that I really like. I think can have a breakout. Notice people are still not touching Devontae Adams. So that is really interesting to me. But it makes sense. I kind of highlighted him as a guy that could potentially be a boom or bust candidate heading into this year with that offense, with those quarterbacks not necessarily fully addressed the way he was used last year. So age as well, right? A lot of factors. Now, obviously what does need to be mentioned, I think the last mock draft we did on ESPN was a 10-teamer. So there, obviously, better talent is going to be available in the later picks. Better talent is going to be able to drop to you, higher likelihood of that. So, obviously, the larger and larger the leagues get, the harder and harder it is to stack talent and to have a top multiple top heavy guys. So that's part of this entire exercise. But I will say we have gotten sniped in back-to-back rounds in the second and third round. So there is that aspect to it. And with that being the case, we're one or two picks away from this thing really breaking in a different manner. But I still think we're doing an okay job of kind of pivoting, of looking at other players that we can consider, and kind of still constructing a roster that we potentially like. So I'm looking at, let's kind of go back to the third round and what happened to highlight it. Mike Evans, Travis Kelce, Josh Jacobs, where we got sniped on him. We went Drake London, then Michael Pittman, Devontae Adams finally got drafted, Sam Laporta, James Cook. I was considering James Cook, but ultimately decided wide receiver. Jalen Hurts, Kenneth Walker, Devon A-Chain, Stephon Diggs. And then in the fourth round, it has been all wide receivers. Nico Collins, Deebo Samuel, Jalen Waddle, DJ Moore, DK Metcalf, Brendan Ayuk. So it seems like this group of wide receivers here in ESPN is really, really discounted. On Fantasy Pros, we see these guys be like early third round selections, some even second rounders like Brendan Ayuk. So really good value here on ESPN on these quote unquote mid-tier guys. Now we're back on the clock, and let's see what we have available to us at running back. I mean, Ramondre Stevenson, I don't love that situation. Wide receiver, Cooper Kupp is still there. I think he's probably the best value at this point in time. So maybe we go wide receiver heavy, and then we can try and make some magic happen at the running back position in the next several rounds. I'm not focusing on quarterback right now in this 12-team league. I think that we can, get a fine guy later on. So let other people take the quarterback position. I'll be able to load up on other talent, whether it's tight end, whether it's wide receiver, whether it's running back. Now, in this case, it'll probably be running back. The guy that I'm hoping drops to us is Aaron Jones. I think he's ranked way too low here. I did definitely debate taking him in the last round, but I thought, okay, the way this thing is playing out, I think there's a chance he falls to us, but who knows? David Montgomery is also somebody that I was targeting. I was hoping he could last a little bit longer because I'll be honest with you guys, he's ranked way too low here. But we're going to go with Aaron Jones. So we nab him up. He's the main guy for the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, that offense isn't going to be the same without Kirk Cousins, but I think Aaron Jones can still get his. Again, I'm looking at these running backs. If this was dynasty purposes, I'd be sick to my stomach with Henry, with Aaron Jones, aging guys. But hey, we just need him to be serviceable for 1 year, and they're in situations being the top guy, being on an improved offense with Derrick Henry, where we could see improvements on their production from the year prior. That's what I'm banking on. So, if I had this go perfectly my way in the next round, I would hope to get Zamir White. I think he's undervalued here. Ramondre Stevenson, I'm not even mentioning these next top four guys, Stevenson, DeAndre Swift, James Conner. I just don't think that they're going to be available for us. So for that reason, I think we can move on from them as options. Again, let's go back to the pick history here, and I believe we kind of left off in the 5th round. So yeah, Montgomery, Mark Andrews, T. Higgins, we went with Aaron Jones, Malik Neighbors. I continue to say it, much better value on Neighbors than Marvin Harrison, but hey, if you can get Marvin Harrison in the 3rd round or 4th round, in a 10-team league in ESPN, then I would take that. Keenan Allen, Joe Burrow, T.J. Hockenson, intriguing pick considering that, he suffered a pretty devastating injury late last year. So we'll see on his health status as we get closer to the start of the year, but could be a steal, right? Zay Flowers, Calvin Ridley, Tank Dell, Evan Ingram. And then a little bit of a run on tight ends here. Man, I keep forgetting about Trey McBride. I'm kicking myself. He's ranked way too low on the ESPN platform. I feel like I did it in the last mock draft we did on ESPN too. So gotta have that in the back of my mind here a little bit more, that McBride is a value. But the way that this thing started for us, I think we kind of needed to go running back. So the question is, do we go Zamir White here? Do we go with a tight end? Dalton Kincaid, I think Kyle Pitts can fall to us. So I'm kind of leaning Zamir White. Ooh, I really like George Pickens. But let's go Zamir White. A lot of opportunities there. We need to get some more running back depth. And yeah, I'm not shocked George Pickens went. He's a great value. But we've already got CD, Drake London, Cooper Kupp. You can only draft so many guys that you want, right? It's not an auction format where you can, if you save up your funds appropriately, you can get a lot of the guys that you're high on. So the way this played out, I can still get a tight end that I like in Kyle Pitts. Yes, he's also on the Atlanta offense with Drake London, but again, having Kirk Cousins there, I think is going to help that situation out a lot. Do I wish I had done things differently with that Zamir White pick? No, I don't think so. I think we get a little bit more value from him as opposed to George Pickens. We already had 3 starting wide receivers on the squad, only 2 starting running backs. Again, some aging guys. So I think it made a little bit more sense to back us up there with a high upside rusher in Zamir White, if you look at it from that standpoint. But now let's just kind of get back to best player available. I think, again, Terry McLaurin here is still available. That's absolutely bananas. There is a tight end run after we went Kyle Pitts, Ferguson, Dallas Goedert. So, I think we made the right choice in going Kyle Pitts as well. Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, Nick Chubb is kind of a flyer depending on when he returns. He could be a huge steal, right? Terry McLaurin was drafted, so some of that remaining really, really good upside is being scooped up. Makes sense. If this were to break ideally for me, I would go either Deontay Johnson or Christian Kirk. So let's see. It looks like we might have an all right chance of doing that. I'm looking at some other running backs. Tony Pollard, Spears splitting that backfield in Tennessee. Could be a better offensive line as well. So I might kind of pivot to a Zach Moss or an Ezekiel Elliott, Gus Edwards. It's really tough. There's a lot of running backs by committees at this point in time. That's why, in my opinion, it makes a lot of sense to be prioritizing those backfields where you know what you're going to get for fantasy football purposes. Like with Derrick Henry, we know it's going to be Henry. With Aaron Jones, we know it's going to be Aaron Jones in Minnesota. With White, there's no more Josh Jacobs, so he's going to have the leg up on everyone. So right now, I think we're going to make 2 more picks and kind of wrap this thing up. We've done an all right job of filling out the roster. Aaron Rodgers just got drafted, who I absolutely love. Glad to see he gets some love here. Spears just got drafted, so we're at least going to be able to get another wide receiver that we really like in Deontay Johnson. So let's not waste any time. Let's go Deontay Johnson. I think him in Carolina is going to really, really help out Bryce Young. I think he's going to overtake Adam Thielen as that #1 wide receiver. So he's going to have a lot of opportunities, right? And then we're going to make one final selection here at quarterback, and we will kind of wrap it up there. So, yeah, obviously in these bigger leagues, it's a little bit tougher to have sometimes things break your way, especially if you're picking towards the start or towards the end, which, I would say the first 4 picks and is kind of in that first part of the draft, right? If you break it out into thirds. And there's a lot of chances that you might get sniped. So here we're looking at a quarterback, like I mentioned before. I like Caleb Williams. I like the upside there. Kirk Cousins right now, I still don't know what's going to happen with his rehab. So that's something that I'm looking at. So I'm probably going to go Caleb Williams here. I also do like Matthew Stafford. And we're kind of wrapping this up. This would be a situation where if we go with a high upside guy in Caleb Williams, we back him up with a proven veteran like a Tua or Stafford later on, or Jared Goff. So for that reason, kind of pencil that in as well. But overall, this is kind of how the squad panned out. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Would you have done anything differently? If you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.